Welcome to Bears on Tap, hosted by Kyle Juice Michalski, Quentin Q. Crisco, Sonny Verma, and the one and only Ron Luce. Bringing you all the news, analysis, and opinions on the charter franchise, Chicago Bears.
And we are back. It's a quick turnaround this week. And there's only two of us. It's not a full show, but I am Ron Luce doing the host duties tonight. Q is traveling for the holidays. And I am joined by the one and the only Mr. Sonny Verma. Sonny, first off, my friend, how are you? And happy Thanksgiving week.
Happy Thanksgiving indeed. It's my favorite holiday. I think it's the best holiday of the year, and I will not entertain a thought otherwise. You're talking about food, family, and no obligation to give gifts. I don't think you can do any better than Thanksgiving.
That's an incredible point. It's eat a lot of food, watch a lot of football, spend time with the people that you love, and that's it. It's pretty great. It is pretty great. I agree. I know there are people out there that do not like Thanksgiving. That is neither here nor there. But, you know, what are you going to do? You can't please everybody. We are back, though. Preview show. We are a quick turnaround this week. The Bears do not have all the way until Sunday to play football again because it is a Turkey Day game for the Bears this week. They will be in Detroit taking on the powerhouse Lions at Ford Field. That is the opening game on the Thanksgiving slate. So that's an 11:30 a.m. start Central Time. Make sure you remember that because I can't tell you how many years I turned the game on 35 minutes into it because I thought it started at noon. Everybody's got to keep that in mind. 11:30 start time, and then you can enjoy the rest of the day of football because everything else is pretty standard in terms of start times. But just let's start this thing off as I feel like we always do. Just what is your status? What is your feeling right now seeing the Lions at home on Thanksgiving on the Bears schedule right now?
Well, I mean, that part's not ideal, right? But it's changed. My mood has changed. You know, I've shown up the last 3 weeks on Bears on Tap talking about how mentally I've adjusted away from, hey, Bears, let's win 10, 11 games, make to the playoffs, and to now, hey, Caleb, let me see you get better every single week. And I've seen him get better every single week. And so Thursday night, we're going to talk about it in a little bit. The national focus is going to be on Caleb. I feel like the national narrative is a lot more down on him than what us Bears fans feel about him. So I'm hoping that, he shows up and he performs the way he's been doing the last couple of weeks, because I think, the narrative around him needs to change. And I think he's got the opportunity to do it against a really good football team.
Indeed. And I think that's the big key here, right? Because the nature of Thanksgiving and the way it's played, these are all primetime games. So this is, even though it's an 11:30 a.m. Central Time start, this is a prime time football game for the Chicago Bears, and more specifically, as you noted, Sonny, for Caleb Williams. And Sonny, I think Q is trying to stir us up in a positive manner from afar, because before tonight's show, he sent you and I each some stats, some numbers, some hardcore hashtag facts. And they're pretty interesting, and I want to read them here really quick. And this is from Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. on X. He's at Wiltfong Jr. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly because I'm awful with names. He says the Bears are 20-15-2 all-time playing on Thanksgiving, and they've beaten the Lions the last 3 times the two teams have met on the holiday. Detroit is 37-45-2 all-time on Thanksgiving. They haven't actually won on the holiday since 2016. And yes, as Scott says it here, it's 7 straight losses for the Lions, and he's advocating for the Bears to make it 8 straight. And Sonny, I think, my fiance and I were talking this game over actually just before jumping on with you here this evening. And originally I started off with saying the Bears are going to get the brakes beat in. And she goes, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Elaborate." And she says, "Well, it's really going to be a close game, right?" She goes, "Caleb looks better." She goes, "It's a short week. Maybe the Lions don't, take the Bears seriously on Thanksgiving. Maybe they're more worried about getting home to their families in Detroit and, cutting that turkey open circa 4 p.m., local time. Maybe they overlook them and this is a closer football game. And I was like, maybe you're right. And then I think back to the last couple of years of watching the Matt Eberflus Chicago Bears take on these Dan Campbell Lions. And for some reason, Jared Goff never plays well against the Bears. I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. I can't tell you what that recipe is that makes Mr. Ryan Gosling lookalike play peasant football in terms of quarterback position. But the Bears always seem to have his number. They always seem to make these games probably more competitive than they should be. If this was the 2023 Bears and the 2024 Lions, 52-6 easily. And you could sell me on it. I would bet it. I would be okay with it. I really do think there is a chance, though, coming into this game where it's going to be interesting. I think at the end of the day, the Lions are still going to win, and we're going to do predictions toward the end of the show, obviously. But I think there's some weird chance where the Bears are going to make this a hell of a football game again. And at least at the end of the day, you said it, right? All of us are sitting here watching Caleb Williams, wanting him to just continue to play better, continue to show that you are the franchise quarterback this long-standing organization has been dying for. And you can have your third straight really good game against an NFC North rival. And what better way to do it than in prime time on Turkey Day? Sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, first off, we need to bring the fiance on to Bears on Tap because we need that positivity on this show after
Definitely.
the past month worth of episodes where, it's all been gloom and doom. But, I don't want to say too much because I'm going to save it for that last segment. But, Ron, I will tell you that I agree. I do think that there's trends that are pointing in a certain direction. I think that spread, believe it was 10.5 as of the recording.
It was 10.5 as of this evening. Yes.
I think that's a ridiculous line. But again, I just think the national perception of where the Bears are is where the Bears were 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Things have changed. The offense looks a lot better. Our quarterback looks a lot better. Our quarterback is playing with confidence. We have an offensive coordinator who's actually forming our offensive game plan to the strengths of the players on the football team, which, by the way, pretty smart strategy. I like what he's doing there. So, again, I'm going to save my actual thoughts for the final segment, but I will say that I think Thursday's game is going to be a lot closer than a lot of other people think.
I think so as well. Scott says here in the comment section, he says the Bears are going to win. Eberflus is going to save his job. #Classic Bears. #McCaskey way. And we'll revisit that comment a little bit later in the show, Sonny, because I think you and I each will have some things to say about it. But let's pivot our focus. We all know what the Bears are bringing into this game. And I think, admittedly, maybe more than any other opponent that we've previewed this year, Sonny, a lot of people know what the Lions are bringing in because, to your point, right, I think the national media is still living 2 weeks in the past for the Bears, but the national media, the Lions are their darlings this year because they're a dominant football team. They're doing things that, let's be real, we haven't seen them do before. There's not many football teams that beat the brakes off of teams the way the Detroit Lions have this season. And you watch them get to 10 wins. They've won 9 straight after falling to 1-1 after that Buccaneers game in week 2. They are just humming on all cylinders. They have playmakers at every position on offense. They've probably one of the best, if not the best offensive lines in the league. And they have a defense that, despite maybe not being full of quote-unquote superstars, especially with Aiden Hutchinson on the shelf for the rest of the year, they have a really good coach in Aaron Glenn holding up the show, and they have just enough playmakers at all the crucial spots to get the job done. This is a complete football team, and probably the most complete football team the Chicago Bears are going to see on their schedule the whole season. Sonny, do you agree, and what are your thoughts?
100%. I think it's the best football team in the NFL right now. They're playing with confidence, and as you said, it's not like the Vikings, right, who are 9-2, but they're barely just squeaking by. Detroit is just obliterating whoever's in front of them week in and week out. 9 games in a row. When you win 9 games in a row, that's not by accident. That means you're a really good football team, and the numbers back it up, the analytics back it up, and the eye test back it up. So the Bears are in for a fight on Thursday.
A fight indeed. And with that in mind, We're going to get this screen share up here. And these always, as always, are provided by our man and our myth, Mr. Butt Gets Stats, Mr. Quentin Crisco. So thanks and shout out to Quentin for dropping this over for you and I to use this week. Sonny, you had a comment when Hugh sent this over on Monday. I would love for you to share it because I think I shared the same thought when he sent it over. I'll let you have the floor here.
Well, I mean, we do this every week. And so, we get these graphs every single week. And I pulled this up on my phone and I'm just like, guys, that's a lot of green. A lot of green. We don't see as much pink or red as we in weeks past. This team, again, what I just got done saying, the eye test backs it up. But honestly, you take a look at the numbers, the analytics. There's no hiding it. This is just a really good football team up and down all around.
Indeed it is. And I think the most interesting part too is this Lions team, even in a lot of sections outside of one on this graph, where Q might be a little bit down in terms of his rankings and his grading of these players, PFF, they are PFF darlings. Yeah. And I mean, again, you nailed it perfectly though, sir. This is a complete football team. So with that in mind, my friend, let's get to our first segment.
The baddest man.
As always, we always got to highlight the baddest man on both sides of the football. Sonny, I will let you start, and I will let you pick the side of the football that you want to focus on here. Who's your baddest man for these Detroit Lions?
Let's start with the offensive side, just because I think, both sides are bad, but that's the best. You're talking about a great offensive coordinator. As you said, you were talking about stars at each skill position. The guy I'm most afraid of is Montgomery. And that's just because of the previous past with Chicago. I know he's showing up on the injured report, and silently, you never want to see anyone hurt. But if he were to not play Thursday, I wouldn't exactly be too upset. I just think he's a perfect running back for the type of offense that they run. And any chance that he knows the national spotlight's going to be on the Lions versus the Bears, and obviously he's a former Bear, and I think if he can have the opportunity to stick it to his former team in front of the entire country, he's going to do it.
Indeed. Monty is certainly a very bad man. And I will share here as a part of this piece as we look into the Lions team. This was their practice report as of Tuesday. There were 3 names who did not practice. Those 3 names were Taylor Decker, starting left tackle, Carlton Davis III, one of their 2 starting corners, and Khalif Raymond, who is one of their depth receivers and also a notable returner for this Lions team. All 3 of them did not practice, and that was for the second straight day on Tuesday. Amon-Ra St. Brown and David Montgomery, as you mentioned here, Sonny, were both limited. And then Terrion Arnold, who is not on the graphic, but you do see kind of under Kendall Vildor there's a Terrion Arnold with a question mark because he had been battling some injuries. He was a full go, as was DJ Redder, one of the 2 defensive tackles. They were full go and probably expect to play this week. So sticking with the offensive side of the football, it really does feel like you can pick just about anybody. And I think Monty's a good pick for what you cited, and especially because he's a touchdown machine. He's always going to give them a look, especially when they get into the red zone. I think the guy that I have to go with, though, is Penei Sewell. I think he might be one of the baddest dudes on this offense. And here's why. First off, I've never seen a 100% on any of Q's graphics before, so that's terrifying. And secondly, he just, there's a chance. I will say, if Decker is out of this game, that could be huge for the Bears because now you can line Montez Sweat up against a second-string left tackle and hopefully generate a lot of pressure from that side and really keep Jared Goff uncomfortable for the course of the game. However, if Penei Sewell has to match up against Sweat or really any of these Bears defensive ends, he is probably going to shut them down. And I think that is why it's so key, because you keep Goff clean, good things are going to happen. And Scott from Iowa echoing what I have to say in the comments. He says Goff's going to have enough time to bake a cake with that offensive line. And he agreed with me that Sewell was his baddest man as well. And our friend, Mr. Quentin, as he's traveling, joining us here, he says, excited for Thursday. The Bears play great on Thursdays. It's true. The Bears do play great on Thursdays. I don't know why, but they do. Sonny, let's flip it to the other side of the football here. Your baddest man on the defensive end for the Detroit Lions.
So I kept going back and forth, and I decided I'm just going to pick the tandem because I think this might be the best group of safeties, starting safeties in the NFL. Obviously, I'm a loyalist to Kirby Joseph because he played at my alma mater, the University of Illinois, but the guy is just a turnover machine. And, Branch is arguably the better of the two. And so with the improvement that we've seen of Caleb over the past couple weeks, I think that safety play and how much he challenges them is going to get me a little bit nervous. Again, I don't think we've played a group this good in a while. At least Caleb hasn't. And so those are the two that I'm most scared of. I'm not going to pick one just because I think both of them are really, really talented.
Incredibly well put. I think Joseph, like you said, just a really sound safety. I know he's got a little bit of a dirty reputation around the NFL because of some of the hits that he lays on players that unfortunately have resulted in injuries, but still an incredible football player nonetheless, and was a hell of a steal for them. I believe he was a 3rd-round draft pick, if I remember correctly, for those Detroit Lions. But I agree with you. I mean, you could make the argument Brian Branch, the better of the two, just an absolute Swiss Army knife on the defensive end for these Lions. Can play the traditional safety role, can drop down into that nickel spot, almost can play in the box as like a hybrid linebacker of sorts. A guy that defensive coordinators would be licking their chops to have on their defense. And I'm certainly sure that Aaron Glenn feels that way on a week-to-week basis. Sonny, this is a good cornerback group, especially if Terrion Arnold is healthy. I know he's had a little bit of a turbulent first season in the NFL, but still a good player nonetheless. Carlton Davis, also a very good player, had a lot of good years in Tampa, was a big piece of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the last few seasons. They have a strong defensive line, even without Aiden Hutchinson. Obviously, the addition of Zadarius Smith certainly helps with that from a pass rushing standpoint. But it's really hard, really, really hard. And I'm going to ask Scott to politely get the hell out of my head right now because he is firing thoughts off faster than I can say them. Jack Campbell's a bad dude. And I know a lot of people wondered what the hell the Lions were doing when they took a linebacker in the 1st round. But when you already had such a complete football team, you could kind of fuck around and find out if you're the Lions and just take best player available. And that's what they did with Campbell. And he's a dog, and he does absolutely embody what Dan Campbell wants in terms of his linebackers. Just flies around, makes tons of plays. He's not perfect, certainly, but that is a guy that can be a game changer, especially when this Bears team was not really able to run the football very effectively against the Vikings a week ago. He's not going to make it any easier for them against this Detroit team this week. And again, man, it's so crazy looking at this team and you just go, they have no holes. Maybe a couple of guys where you say, yeah, you could have a little bit better depth, but there's no holes on this team.
I mean, realistically, we could have 6 co-hosts here and each one of us pick a different guy and the rest of us would just nod like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's a good pick right there. I mean, it's just, it's a really, really good football team. And you see it, in the graph that we're looking at, you see it in the standings. And again, this is not a team that just the analytics nerds love. This is not a team that the meatheads love. This is a team that collectively everybody acknowledges is just really good, and you're seeing why.
You're 100% correct. We're going to attempt to answer this next segment, Sonny, but we're going to give it a shot anyway.
The nicest man.
Sonny, is there anybody in your right mind that you can put as the nicest man? We'll start on the offensive side of the football for the Lions. Anybody at all?
No. You kind of hinted at it earlier in this episode. I'm going with Jason Goff only because he tends to struggle against us. And so my hope is that we can kind of continue on that into this game. And, a couple turnovers here and there, all of a sudden, we can stay in it. Has he been doing this all season long? No. And is it an issue that he seems to only have against the Bears? Yes. Is it likely it continues on Thursday? No. But do I have anyone else I feel comfortable picking? No. So I'm going to go with Jason Goff. I just hope his, repeat performances against the Bears, the subpar performances, continues on Thursday.
Yeah, I would love to see Mr. Goff struggle again. I think that's a good one. It was kind of a direction that I was leaning as well. I'm going to take it a little bit off script though, and I'm going to whoever is potentially backing up Taylor Decker if he misses this game. That's my nicest man, because to me, that is the one place the Bears can target and attack on this Lions offense. You can get Montez Sweat lined up on that side of the offensive line every single play, and maybe, just maybe, right? We saw Eric Washington kind of, we'll say, constructively criticize Montez Sweat's game and saying what he needed to do to get back to form. He found that form against the Vikings. He was very disruptive, had an incredible game on Sunday. It was a guy I highlighted in our Baddest Man segments in the post-game show. I really think that's going to be the way that the Bears can disrupt to give your nicest man, Mr. Goff, a hell of a time in that pocket, especially when he has to go off script, because I don't think he's the greatest off script quarterback out there. But again, when you have this good of a football team, you don't need him to go off script because they can just hum on every single cylinder. So assuming Taylor Decker does not play in this football game, his backup, whoever it is, don't even care who their name is, don't even care where they went to school, could care less. They are my nicest man selection. Scott says the nicest man on offense is the long snapper, whoever that is. Unless it's like a Taylor Decker or a Zeitler or somebody like that, then we can't say
Right.
that. But that's neither here nor there. Sonny, on the other side of the football, I think there's a lot more opportunity for this question in this segment here on the defensive side. So I will let you go first here. Who is your nicest man that the Bears can potentially target on the Lions defense?
So I'm actually hoping that we kind of keep the same game plans from the last couple of weeks. And I talked about how I'm more afraid of the safety group on this Lions defensive side. I do think if we make quick throws at the cornerbacks in particular, if, from what I gathered earlier, that both of them might actually be hurt. And if they decide, because keep in mind, the Lions at this point, they've won 10 games, right? They know they're going to make the playoffs. So on a short week like this, if someone is even only 70% healthy, they may decide, hey, you know what, sit this one out, we want you ready to play the following week. And let's just say that happens with, someone like Arnold. My thinking is, let's attack the cornerbacks. They're a good set of cornerbacks. So don't get me wrong. Again, it's hard to pick against the Detroit Lions team, but I think you can go at is in particular if the backups are playing. That's who I'm kind of targeting here. It's just DJ Moore. You've seen a resurgence with him. Keenan Allen, I think, had 15 targets last week. Let's just make quick, short throws and make those guys work.
Indeed. I think that's exactly where I'm going to, because you put it perfectly. Davis was a non-participant in practice the last 2 days, just as Taylor Decker was for these Detroit Lions. Now, again, that might just be completely precautionary, and these guys might still suit up on Thursday, and it might be a moot point, but that's not the idea here. I agree with you. It seems like Terrion Arnold's probably going to play, given that he was a full participant. I don't think there's any concerns that he's going to step right back in as the one of the two starting corners. But if Kendall Vildor, who Bears fans are very familiar with, and good on him sticking around the NFL as long as he has, even as a depth corner, after his days in Chicago, he's probably the one guy you can really single out on this defense and get some good matchups with. I like Scott's comment here saying Vildor versus Rome is something that probably needs to be explored. And make the argument that anybody versus Vildor would need to be explored, whether that's Keenan Allen or DJ Moore, as well as you even alluded to just a few minutes ago. So I really agree with you. I don't think there's tons of opportunity for them to really attack anywhere else on the defense. I know, kind of that second defensive end spot opposite of Zadarius Smith might not be the strongest place right now, but I think that's really where things would have to target. And Quentin says here in the comments, he says, Terrion Arnold missed last game. He says, so he hopes it's Kendall Vildor instead of him again. But again, Arnold, a full participant in practice, whereas Davis missed practice the last 2 days. So maybe it's Terrion Arnold stepping in for Davis, and we still get to see Vildor on the outside as the cornerback 2 for these Lions. Sonny, now that we have identified the baddest men, the very few nicest men on this Detroit Lions roster, get to our final segment here of the show.
Keys to victory.
I I see where Q is going with now, where he says it's nice when we get all three of us on here because then everybody just picks a key. Now we got to get creative. I am going to give you the floor first, sir. What is your key to victory for the Chicago Bears this week?
I figure I'll take the one easy one that both you and I are going to say anyway, and then we'll come up with our own unique ones. And I think we want Caleb to continue being Caleb, right? Like we want him to kind of continue his progressions as just every single week getting better and better. The one advantage that we have against most every team in the NFL is the three guys we line up at wide receiver. And so if Caleb can just kind of take advantage of that, if our offensive coordinator can call the right calls, make these plays nice and quick, just get it done. I think we can keep the game close. I mean, especially offensively. Our offense has played better. Our defense has struggled since that bye week in particularly, but if our offense can continue to get better, I think we can make a game out of it. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and say the first key, of course, is going to start with Caleb. If he regresses to what he was 2 weeks ago, we have zero shot at winning. If he continues to play the way he's playing, that 10.5 is just way too many points.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe we can to spice it up. And if Q, I don't know if you're still writing these up at ontazsportsnet.com. And if you always are looking for these, you can find them at ontazsportsnet.com. But whoever's writing it up this week, maybe a fun one is, right, hey, Caleb, go be Superman, right? Just go be Superman again. Keep doing what you've done the last 2 weeks. You've shown that were worthy of the number 1 overall pick. You're showing that with being able to play free, you are going to play to your full potential. Just go be that dude. Go give this Bears team a chance to win no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the injury reports state. Just go give them a chance. And I agree with you, right? I think at the end of the day, the first key is Caleb and just going out there, playing free, look like Caleb of weeks 11 and 12 of the NFL season, not necessarily Caleb in that, 7 to 10 stretch, and even some of those earlier games prior to the bye as well. Sonny, I will let you have the first stab then at our unique takes here. What is your, I guess, our second total key to victory here for the Chicago Bears?
Don't make mistakes. Detroit's already way so much better than you. It's one of those, don't turn the ball over. Don't give Detroit any advantages that they don't need. They're already a better football team. So you got to win that turnover battle in particular. Again, me referencing back to the golf comment earlier. If we can get a couple turnovers, as long as we don't give up turnovers, hopefully we've focused on our field goal kicking game and it doesn't keep getting exploited from when we kick from 46 yards every single week. Hopefully we fix that. We can't give up points like that. It's just we have to minimize mistakes. Quite simply, that turnover battle, I think it's huge. If we're +2, I think we can win this game. But Detroit's already the best team in the NFL. Don't give them any advantage because they don't need any more.
Well put. Exactly. It really is great football teams you cannot make mistakes against. In fact, you need to try to find mistakes that they can make and hopefully exploit those, even if it's just as simple as maybe on the first drive of the game, you force them into a 3 and out. You gotta go down, you gotta score, and you gotta take that advantage. So I agree. Minimize the mistakes, play clean football, I think is a great way to put it. And Scott says here, kind of echoing what you had to say, fix the field goal blocking, put Komet in maybe as the snapper, and then you can move Scales or Lewis to right guard. It's an interesting theory. You I guess you could overload that side in theory. But again, you create some interesting options. Again, I think it really just comes down to understanding, hey, something's going to have to change. And, maybe you just got to get heavier guys in there to be able to withstand kind of that weight, especially if teams are going to really penetrate at one point in the formation and try to break through and get another block. Sonny, I think you brought up an interesting point over the last couple times that we talked about it, and more specifically on the post-game show on Sunday when we were talking to our keys to victory. Very offensive focused, and I think understandably so, right? Obviously, a lot of our attention's on Caleb Williams. We've already noted our key to the game with Caleb. I think yours is a great key because it's very all-team encompassing. I think it affects all 3 phases of the football team. Just don't make mistakes. Play clean football. Do good things, and good things will come back onto you. I am going to focus on a defensive key. This is for you, Mr. Quentin Crisco. And my key is make Jared Goff uncomfortable. make him uncomfortable all game long. The Bears have somehow found a way to do it multiple times in the Eberflus era, and really dating back to the first few years of Goff being in Detroit after the Matt Stafford trade. They've always found a way to make him uncomfortable. I don't know what it is. I haven't watched enough film to identify what it is, but they always find a way to make him play out of his element. And if they can do that on Thursday, I almost said Sunday. I had to mentally check myself there. If they can do that on Turkey Day, it might not just be turkey that we're all consuming in celebration of potentially a Bears victory. Because again, to me, the key to them winning is absolutely you play clean football. Caleb balls out. And if you make Goff uncomfortable, that Lions offense just might look human for the first time all season long. And maybe, just maybe, we'll have ourselves a Bears victory if they can pull that off. Sonny, anything else you want to add on our 3 keys to victory here before we start to kind of wind things down?
No, not so much. I think you're right. It's basically kind of tags along with my key to the game. Win that turnover battle, and you're going to win that turnover battle if you make Goff uncomfortable. If you can force a fumble here and there, but mainly, Caleb, don't take 10 seconds to throw the football. Obviously he's got a stretch now where he hasn't thrown an interception in a while. We could use that for one more game, please. It's a daunting task on Thursday. Not a lot of people are going to give us a shot to win. Vegas certainly doesn't, but doesn't mean that it can't be done.
Indeed. I think too here, maybe I'll go out on a limb with this thought. There is no better time for the Montez Sweat game that we've talked about over the last couple of weeks. Go out there, help force that turnover battle, whether it's forcing a quick throw. We've seen Goff get attacked, right? He threw 5 interceptions against the Texans in that game, and it just so happened that the Lions are the Lions and they fought to come back and win. He's beatable. There is tape out there from this season of how to get him uncomfortable. But then the key is, right, Houston let them back in. They made mistakes. If the Bears can continue to do that, this could be the game where we get that Montez Sweat game. Maybe it's a couple sacks. Maybe it's a forced fumble. Maybe it's just rushing the quarterback into a bad decision. And maybe it's a Jalen Johnson, or maybe it's a Kevin Byard, or maybe it's a Terrell Edmonds over the middle of the field with that big wingspan. He's had a couple of picks, I believe, against the Lions over the last 2 seasons now. Maybe that's how they get it done come Thursday. With all of that in mind, Sonny, because we are focused on this Bears team potentially winning on the holiday this week, because we would like to see that happen, and because we would like to see what Scott from Iowa says, despite it meaning Eberflus might save his job, at least for the time being, a win is a win is a win, and we've all talked about it. It sucks when this team is losing, even if it is for maybe the greater good of the future of the team. What are your score predictions for Bears-Lions on Thursday?
You take a look at that Vegas spread. I've referenced it already. 10.5 points. The Lions have won 9 in a row. The Chicago Bears have lost 5 in a row. Again, nobody's going to be watching that game. Everyone thinks Caleb Williams stinks. Everyone thinks that the Chicago Bears are in turmoil, which is probably half correct, but it's certainly not as bad as it was 2 weeks ago. Ron, I think the Bears win on Thursday. I think there's just too much pointing in one direction that all of a sudden the craziness that comes with Thanksgiving football occurs. I think the Bears win in a shootout. Maybe not a shootout. Let's say 31-27 Chicago Bears. Caleb has his best game of the year. And all of a sudden, national pundits start realizing that, no, Caleb was the right pick at 1.1. And, Eberflus is still a problem. So, I like Scott's the first part of his comment. I don't necessarily like the second, but I just think that too many signs for me. When Vegas tells you that something is a lock, Vegas doesn't build its casinos based on locks. And so for me, I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears and give me the money line.
That's a spicy take. That's like the Cajun butter in the turkey on Thursday. I'll tell you what, Sonny, I was sitting here mulling over this specific part of the show about an hour ago, maybe a little longer than an hour ago, I would say. was like, where do I go with this score prediction? Because as mentioned in my conversation with Katie, my fiance, I jokingly was, the Bears are going to get the brakes beat off, right? 42-28, 42-21, something like that. And then I kind of reeled it back in. I was like, no, I think there is a world this game is close, especially because it's a short week. Caleb's balling out. The Bears just have Goff's number on defense, and it doesn't make any sense at all, but it's just reality.
Yeah.
And I was still leaning toward the home team here in the Motown Lions. And over the last 35 minutes and 37 seconds of this show, my thoughts have changed.
Love it.
I am in with Scott and in with you. Let's make it 8 straight losses for the Detroit Lions on Turkey Day. Who the hell can? We have nothing to lose. We have nothing to lose. The Bears have nothing to lose. And I am going to watch this game no matter what happens. I think this is where Caleb makes his mark and shows people, look at me. I'm one of 2 quarterbacks to beat the Lions this year. And Montez Sweat has a big game. I think it's a close one. It's going to be close. It's always going to be close. I like your score number. I'm going to go very similar. Bears 30, Lions 24.
Love it. Love it. The Lions are they're obviously a fantastic football team, and this could very well be the year of the Detroit Lions. Then win the Super Bowl, win 14 games or whatever it might be. But there's going to be a blemish, and at least they're not going to have a perfect type of season. And I just think that a loss to their rivals on Thanksgiving Day can maybe humble the team a little bit. Not that the Detroit Lions necessarily need humbling with their franchise history, but they're riding really high right now. The national narrative with them is just how much they're just dominating every single opponent. And here comes the woe me little feeble Chicago Bears. And who knows, the way Caleb is just carrying himself right now, the way DJ's playing, our offense in general is playing, I think we can squeeze one out.
I like it. I like it a lot. And I'm going to ask this of everybody listening to the show, whether you're listening to this in podcast form, this will be posted on late Tuesday evening here, so everybody can tune in on Wednesday before we get to Thanksgiving. I want to ask everybody in the comment section right now watching along live, or even if you're watching this later on YouTube, I think this is something we need to start doing. I really want to hear from everybody else besides just us here at Bears on Tap. Put your score predictions in the comments on YouTube. Head over to the On Tap Sportsnet YouTube. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell button while you're over there. You'll always know when we go live. And then go find this episode, Bears versus Lions. Bears have a tough task on Turkey Day in Motown. Go to that one, find the comment section, drop your score prediction, and I'll tell you what. You drop your score prediction before the start because we get timestamp of everything, so you can't run and hide from me and lie to me. If you nail the score prediction, not only will you get a shout out on the post-game show on Friday, but we'll also try to find something cool that we can give away as a part of that for whoever the winner is. So I highly encourage everybody, again, On Tap Sportsnet YouTube, head over there, find this show, comment. Even if you're listening on podcast form, just head over to your YouTube, like, subscribe, and hit that bell button. You help us, we help you. And go ahead and drop your score predictions. We've already got one, and I love the way that Scott says this, and maybe not that Scott says this. I don't know. This is very vivid. Bears down 31-27. Caleb completes a pass to DJ. Dives for the pylon. The ref says he's just short, just before the 2-minute warning. Eberflus challenges, and they determine DJ fumbles into the end zone. That would be the most Eberflus Bears thing imaginable. So he's saying that the Bears would lose 31-27, I believe, in this prediction. Scott, unless you want to rally back with another one, you're more than welcome to. But I hope that's not the case. I really don't. But I'll tell you what, I like the positive vibes going into Turkey Day. Maybe it's the holiday week rubbing off on us, and we're excited about some Bears football, especially in prime time. It's hard to beat. Sonny, I must ask you, any final thoughts here before we go ahead and close things down and look ahead to an early primetime matchup on Thanksgiving?
Let's just keep it close. Obviously I predicted a victory, and I think that we can win this game. But, as you said 45 minutes ago, you were thinking this could be like a 42-10, 42-14 game. And let's be honest, there's a pretty good chance it could be one of those type of games. We could just be another bug in the path of this mighty Detroit Lions team. But I just feel like the last 2 weeks against really good opponents between the Green Bay Packers and Minnesota Vikings, we've played up to their levels. And sure, we haven't come out on the victorious side, but it hasn't looked nearly like the previous 3 weeks had been. And let's just, again, we don't necessarily have to win. I'd like to win, but I think as long as we keep the game close, we compete, and I think that's probably the key word, compete, on Thursday, I'm going to be feeling pretty good at the post game whenever we decide to do it, if we do it Friday morning or whatever it might be.
Well put indeed. I just a close football game would be nice, but as long as I think realistically, I think everything that we said in this week's keys to victory are true. I think, not only are those factual just in terms of a game plan per se, but also I think they're all achievable. Especially you mentioned Caleb and the lack of interceptions thrown. You mentioned what the defense can do, and we've seen them do against Goff. There's a lot of things that just scream like this is possible for the Bears. Of course, it's unlikely because the Lions are the NFL's media darling this season, and they're probably the best team in football. Let's just call it what it is. They put together a hell of a group. That front office with Holmes and with Campbell, they've done an incredible job drafting and developing and putting kind of the aces in the right places. But it feels like they're due for a disappointment. And 10.5, like you said, is a crazy line from Vegas. I think at worst case scenario, the Bears cover that line. But I agree with you, man. Just something down in the loins. It's telling me that they can win this game on Thursday. And if they do, I might overstuff myself with stuffing in pure celebration. Because not only is it my favorite Thanksgiving food, but it is also, that might be where my mind goes if the Bears end up pulling this one off. Sonny, before we tune out of here, your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
You know what? For some reason, I can never say no to mashed potatoes. It's a shame that I really can only eat it, ask for it if I'm going out for a steak or during Thanksgiving. But man, the right gravy and the right texture of the mashed potatoes, it's a battle because my wife hates it. So she'll never, make it, and it's no point in me making it just for me. So when I think about Thanksgiving, I think about those yummy mashed potatoes I'm about to have on Thursday.
I love it. As I mentioned, I'm a sucker for stuffing. It doesn't matter whose it is. It's typically really good. My dad makes a killer stuffing, always has. That's always the food I look forward to the most. And especially too, I think there's an added hype to it because you also only really typically get it once a year. Sometimes you get some people that make it kind of around Christmas time too. My parents sometimes do that as well. They'll make it again kind of around Christmas, but I can't get enough of it. I'll take all the leftovers home, and that's my meal for the next 3 days after Thanksgiving, and I can't wait. Sonny, quickly before we get out of here, again, I want to remind everybody on TapSportsNet.com, at OnTapSportsNet on the socials. Subscribe over on the YouTube channel. We wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. We will be back, actually technically tomorrow on Wednesday. Myself and Q will be doing our film review. That'll be a morning show, so if you are off of work, tune in with us. That'll be about 10 a.m. Central Time, and we'll do a trench review from this past week against the Minnesota Vikings. And then we are expecting, not confirmed, I'm not going to put anything in writing just yet, just in case we got to pivot because of the holidays. But I think we are aiming for something on Black Friday, probably earlier in the day. So if you are off of work, again, tune in with us live here on the On Tap Sportsnet YouTube channel. Drop in the comment section. I hope we're all celebrating a Chicago Bears victory as a result of it as well, especially after a beautiful day spending time with friends and family. Sonny, what do you say, my friend? We get out of here the only way we know how it Bears on tap.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Bear down.
Bear down, baby. Let's go.